Assalamu alaikum. This is Sharup Mujumdar welcoming you all to the English news from Btv Chattogram. Let's begin with the headlines. Charter of New Bangladesh to be created. Commons Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus as 4 Reform Commission heads submit full reports. Supreme Court's Appellate Division acquits all including BNP chairperson Begum Khaleda Zia of graft charges in Jia Orphanage Trust case. Police personnel involved in misconduct during anti-discrimination student movement in July and August being arrested after investigation, says Home Advisor. At least 63 killed across Gaza in last 24 hours amid hopes of ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas closer than ever. And Chattogram phase of Bangladesh Premier League BPL to start at Johor Ahmed Chaudhry Stadium tomorrow. Those were the headlines. Now moving on to the details. The heads of the 4 reform commissions have submitted their full reports to Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus. Their Constitutional Reform Commission Chief Professor Ali Riaz, Election System Reform Commission Chief Badiul Alam Majumdar, Anti-Corruption Commission Reform Commission Chief Dr. Iftikhar Zaman and Police Reform Commission Chief of Safar Raj Hussain. After submitting the reforms report, a meeting was held to summarize the report at the Chief Advisor's office in the capital today. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus, in his introductory speech, said, "This is a historic moment through which a new charter of mass upsurge will be created, and it will be the charter of a new Bangladesh." The Chief Advisor said the election will be held in the future through this charter and on the basis of consensus.
আমরা একটা নতুন দেশ, নতুন বাংলাদেশ তৈরি করার স্বপ্ন নিয়ে এটার কাঠামো রচনা করার কাজ আপনাদের হাতে দিয়েছিলাম কমিশনের মাধ্যমে। স্বপ্ন আছে, এখন সেটার স্বপ্নগুলোর রূপরেখাগুলো খুলে ধরা হচ্ছে। কাজে এটাই ক্লাসরুমে পড়া হবে, অনেক শিক্ষণীয় বিষয় থাকবে, সেটা ভিন্ন কথা। কথাগুলো যে জাতির যে পুনরুত্থান হলো, যে স্বপ্ন নিয়ে পুনরুত্থান হলো, সেই পুনরুত্থানকে আমরা ধারণ করতে পেরেছি, তাকে এগিয়ে নিতে পারছি কিনা, সেটাই আমাদের বিবেচ্য বিষয়। এটা এখানে শেষ না, এটা এই অধ্যায় শুরুর স্বপ্ন এবং তার অভ্যুত্থান পরবর্তী যাত্রা সেটা শুরু।
The heads of the commission also spoke at the time. Chief of the Constitution Reform Commission Professor Ali Riaz said the reform made a number of recommendations aimed at establishing democracy, people's fundamental rights and accountability. He said the Constitution Reform Commission has proposed a 2-house parliament. Besides, several recommendations have been made to bring a balance between the power of the Prime Minister and the President. Election System Reform Commission Chief Badiul Alam Majumdar said their report made 150 recommendations for holding a free, fair and inclusive election. He said a number of recommendations have been made to ensure the independence of the Election Commission as well as to establish democracy among the political parties. Anti-Corruption Commission Reform Commission Chief Muhammad Iftikhar Zaman said 47 recommendations have been made to meet the expectations of the people to prevent corruption. He said the report also recommends stopping the legalization of black money. Chief of the Police Reform Commission Safar Raj Hussain said their report has made short, medium and long-term proposals to reform the police force. The interim government may start formal talks with political parties in the middle of February next for reaching a consensus of the reform initiatives. Environment Advisor Syed Rizwana Hassan said this at a press briefing at the Foreign Service Academy after the submission of the reports of the 4 reform commissions.
আমরা গণ অভ্যুত্থানকে আমাদের হৃদয়ে ধারণ করেছি এবং এই সংস্কারের ক্ষেত্রে সকল রাজনৈতিক দল কাউকে বারণ করা হয়নি, সকল রাজনৈতিক দল তাদের মতামত দিয়েছেন। আজকে যে কমিশনগুলো রিপোর্ট দিয়েছে সেই রিপোর্টগুলো সকল রাজনৈতিক দলের লিখিত বক্তব্য প্রতিফলন করেছে। যতটুকু কমিশনরা মনে করেছেন যে নেবেন ততটুকু নিয়েছেন। এইটাই কিন্তু এটা শেষ না, এটা নিয়ে আলোচনার প্রক্রিয়া। আসিফ ভাই 1, 2, 3, 4 ফেজের কথা বলেছে, প্রয়োজন হলে ফেজ বাড়বে, কিন্তু রাজনৈতিক মতানৈক্যের ভিত্তিতেই হবে। 31শে জানুয়ারির মধ্যে প্রত্যেক 6টা কমিশনের প্রতিটি কমিশনের পূর্ণাঙ্গ রিপোর্ট আপনারা পেয়ে যাবেন। তাহলে আজকে আপনারা পাচ্ছেন 4টা কমিশনের যে রিপোর্টটা, যে নির্যাস মূল বক্তব্যগুলো উপস্থাপিত হয়েছে সেগুলো আপনারা আজকেই পেয়ে যাচ্ছেন। ওনাদের ওয়েবসাইট থেকে পাবেন, প্রধান উপদেষ্টা মহোদয়ের দপ্তরে যে ওয়েবসাইট আছে সেখান থেকেও পাবেন। আর পূর্ণাঙ্গ রিপোর্টগুলো আপনারা পেয়ে যাবেন এই মাসের 31 তারিখের মধ্যে।
Advisor Dr. Asif Nazrul said the July genocide trial will begin in March. The trial process can be completed before the election.
আমরা বিচারের ক্ষেত্রে মূলত গুরুত্ব দিচ্ছি ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ক্রাইম ট্রাইব্যুনালের উপর, বিকজ এই ক্রাইম ট্রাইব্যুনালের যে বিচারটা আছে এখানে রাষ্ট্রপক্ষের ইনভলভমেন্টটা বেশি, ফলে আমরা এটাকে খুব বেশি গুরুত্ব দিয়ে দেখছি। এবং আমাদের যেই গতিতে এই মামলার তদন্ত কাজ এগোচ্ছে, সম্ভবত আপনারা আশা করছি মার্চ থেকে শুনানি শুরু হয়েছে এটা দেখতে পারবেন। এবং আমাদের আশা আছে, এগেইন এটা বিচারালয়ের বিষয়, আমাদের আশা আছে, আমাদের বিশ্বাস আছে, আমরা যে গতিতে এগোচ্ছি ইনশাআল্লাহ সামনে নির্বাচনের আগে আমরা অন্তত ট্রায়াল কোর্টে বিচার কাজ সম্পন্ন করতে পারবো। এখানে কারো কোনো রকম গাফলতি নাই, এটা সুযোগ নাই। আপনাদের কাছে আমাদের প্রতিজ্ঞা, কমিটমেন্ট, অবশ্যই বাংলাদেশে যে নির্মম, যে আপনার অমানবিক গণহত্যা সংগঠিত হয়েছে, অবশ্যই আমাদের সরকার এটার বিচার করবে।
Advisor Asif Mahmood Shoji Bhuiya said the recommendations of the Reform Commission will be implemented based on the consensus of all.
খুবই আশাব্যঞ্জক যে বাংলাদেশের মানুষ সংস্কার কমিশনগুলো যে গুগল ডক ফর্মে মানুষের মতামত চেয়েছে, কোন সংস্কার কমিশনে 1 লাখ মানুষও সেখানে রেসপন্স করেছে। মানে এভরিওয়ান হ্যাজ সামথিং টু সে। সংস্কারের ব্যাপারে মানুষের একটা আকাঙ্ক্ষা আছে এবং মানুষ সেই আকাঙ্ক্ষাটা বলছেন এবং সেটাকে সংস্কার কমিশনগুলো অ্যাড্রেস করেছেন, তারা অক্লান্ত পরিশ্রম করেছেন, সেগুলো প্রতিবেদনে এসেছে। আমরা বিশ্বাস করি জুলাই গণঅভ্যুত্থানের যে জন আকাঙ্ক্ষা ছিল, বাংলাদেশের একটা কাঠামোগত সংস্কারের যে আকাঙ্ক্ষা ছিল সেটা বাস্তবায়ন হবে এবং এক্ষেত্রে সংস্কার কমিশনের রিপোর্টের ভিত্তিতে রাজনৈতিক দল, সিভিল সোসাইটি সহ সকল স্টেক হোল্ডারদের সাথে আলোচনার ভিত্তিতে, সবার ঐক্যমত্যের ভিত্তিতে আমরা আমাদের যে রাষ্ট্র ব্যবস্থার প্রত্যেকটি সেক্টরে সংস্কার আনতে পারবো।
The Appellate Division of the Supreme Court today acquitted all, including former Prime Minister and BNP chairperson Begum Khaleda Zia, of graft charges in the Jia Orphanage Trust case. The Appellate Division, headed by Chief Justice Syed Rifat Ahmed, pronounced the verdict unanimously, acquitting them who were convicted and sentenced by the lower court in the Jia Orphanage Trust graft case, allowing their appeals in the case. The court came up with a judgment cancelling the High Court order that extended to Begum Khaleda Zia's initial 5-year jail term to 10 in the Jia Orphanage Trust graft case and the lower court order that initially convicted them all. Senior lawyers Jainul Abidin A.M. Mahabub Uddin Khokon, Budruddoja Badal, Muhammad Ruhul Kudus Kajal, Kaisar Kamal and Advocate Gaji Kamrul Islam Shajal took part in the hearing for the former Prime Minister. Attorney General Muhammad Asaduজ্জামান, Additional Attorney Generals Muhammad Ershadur Rauf and Onik Rusht Haq stood for the state, while Advocate Muhammad Asif Hassan argued for the Anti-Corruption Commission. Senior Advocate S.M. Shahjahan argued for another appellant, Qazi Salimul Haq. The Supreme Court on November 11th in 2024 allowed 2 leave to appeal petitions filed by BNP chairperson Begum Khaleda Zia, staying the High Court order that extended her 5-year jail term to 10 in the Jia Orphanage Trust graft case. President Mohammad Shahabuddin sought more Japanese investment in Bangladesh, particularly in the emerging sectors like automobiles, ICT, medical equipment, light engineering, consumer electronics and tourism. The president sought these when newly ambassador of Japan to Bangladesh, Saida Shinichi presented his credentials to him at Bangabhavan today. On arrival at Bangabhavan, the new envoy was given a guard of honor by a smart contingent of the President Guard Regiment. Welcoming the new ambassador, President Mohammad Shahabuddin said, Japan is the single largest bilateral development partner of Bangladesh, and the relationship between the two countries has elevated to the strategic partnership level. Noting that Bangladesh has received more than $23 billion of Japanese assistance in the forms of grants and loans, the President sought more support and assistance under the Big B initiative. Expressing satisfaction over the increasing volume of bilateral trade, he said, more than 350 Japanese companies are currently operating in Bangladesh. He also requested the envoy to undertake initiatives to import more manpower from Bangladesh. Appreciating Japanese humanitarian assistance to the Rohingyas, President Mohammad Shahabuddin hoped that Japan will continue its cooperation for safe and dignified repatriation of Rohingyas to their homeland. The President invited the Emperor, the Empress, and members of the imperial family to visit Bangladesh. Referring to Japan's investment in the major infrastructure sector of Bangladesh, the new ambassador said Japan is keen to invest more in various sectors of Bangladesh. President's Military Secretary, Major General Muhammad Adil Chaudhry, Press Secretary Muhammad Sarwar Alam, and Foreign Secretary Muhammad Jashimuddin were present. Home Advisor retired Lieutenant General Jahangir Alam Chaudhry said those police personnel involved in misconduct during the anti-discrimination student movement in July and August are being arrested after investigation. He said this while talking to the journalists after inspecting the Ansar and VDP headquarters in the capital today. Higher officials of the Ansar and VDP were present at that time. The Home Advisor said more than 60 lakhs members of Ansar forces will be made more efficient through training to ensure civic services. Apart from training, the government will also work to resolve the existing problems by creating a database of the Ansar members, he added. Now, international news. Israeli forces have stepped up attacks on Gaza, bombing a school and shelter and several homes across the Strip and killing at least 63 people in the last 24 hours. The attacks came despite mediators saying a ceasefire agreement is closer than ever, with US President Joe Biden and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi issuing a joint call on Israel and Hamas to conclude the deal. Thousands of Israelis rallied in Tel Aviv calling for a deal that would secure the release of captives held in Gaza, while hundreds of hardliners marched in Jerusalem demanding a continuation of the war. Meanwhile, negotiators were near to hammering out the final details of the ceasefire in Gaza on Wednesday after marathon talks in Qatar, and the US and Egyptian leaders promised to stay in close contact about a deal over the coming hours. Officials from mediators Qatar, Egypt and the US, as well as Israel and Hamas, said an agreement for a truce in the besieged enclave and release of hostages was closer than ever. 19 people died in Istanbul of Turkey drinking tainted alcohol, with dozens more being treated for poisoning. A total of 65 people were affected, with 43 people, including 26 foreign nationals, still being treated in hospital and 3 others discharged. There was no immediate comment from the Turkish Health Ministry. Istanbul Governor Davut Gül on social media X said late Tuesday that the licenses of 63 businesses selling counterfeit alcohol were cancelled and they were closed. A private TV channel reported that one of those posing as a restaurant was selling counterfeit alcohol in water bottles for 30 lira each. South Korean authorities arrested impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol today over insurrection accusations related to his December 3rd martial law declaration. A motorcade was seen leaving the gates of his hillside residence, while Yoon has been held up for weeks behind barbed wire barriers and a small army of personal security. Earlier, more than 3,000 police officers and anti-corruption investigators had gathered there before dawn, pushing through throngs of Yoon supporters and members of his ruling People Power Party protesting attempts to detain him. Yoon's lawyers have argued attempts to detain Yoon are illegal and are designed to publicly humiliate him. The warrant investigators secured for his arrest is the first ever issued against an incumbent South Korean president. Yoon's declaration of martial law stunned South Koreans and plunged one of Asia's most vibrant democracies into an unprecedented period of political turmoil. Lawmakers voted to impeach him and remove him from duties on December 14th. Separately, the Constitutional Court is deliberating over to hold that impeachment and permanently remove him from office. Now, news on sports. BPL. The Chattogram phase of the Bangladesh Premier League BPL will start tomorrow after a two-day break following the Sylhet phase. Dhaka Capitals will face off Fortune Borishal in the first match of the day at Johor Ahmed Choudhury Stadium at 1:30 p.m. Khulna Tigers will take on Chittagong Kings in the second match of the day